Hi there, it's Ken with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with a Rogue market update. I am late to the party, but I thought I'd chime in on the Commander 2018 deck list. There are some Reddit posts around this. There's a Rudy video about the Commander 2018, about how there might be some silver lining. And I think I'm going to disagree mostly with that video from Rudy, that there is very little silver lining to be had with Commander 2018 deck list, save the fact that there might be a few sleepers like the Teferi's Protection that happened in 2017 Commander list. So let's just talk about Teferi's Protection real quickly here, because I'll show you what I'm talking about. So Commander 2017 was pretty much out the gates, was a disappointment during spoiler season. Then it sold off the shelves and was very hard to find. There was a period where you could sell these Commander decks for about 60 a piece, and then they were reprinted, and then it took it back down to earth, and now once again they're hard to come by, the 2017. I think the main problem with Commander 2017 is it was released the year after Commander 2016, which is probably the best Commander set that has ever been printed. There was like $800 worth of value in the Commander 2016 set when it came out. So if you were going to buy a box set, that's what you could that's how much value was in there once you opened it. It was like buying $800 worth of cards if you were to piece together those decks. And they were very enjoyable decks. People especially loved the Atraxa and the Brea, and the rest of them were also started to gain a lot of popularity as time went on. But Brea, Atraxa sold off the shelves and had a lot of value contained within. Commander 2017 was kind of lackluster, like I said, during spoiler season. We're going to look at the total value right now of when it came out and compare it to. So we have about a 400, and then it settled down to about a 240. But you can see the price has increased all the way to about 320. So it's gained almost all of its value back since the spoiler season of this, and then the actual release of the product for Commander 2017. So keep that in mind. Now are the metrics that we're going to compare with the cards. But there are a few cards in particular that really started going up in value that carry the weight of this particular set. There are cards like the Teferi's Protection. Teferi's Protection was a card that came out the gates around $13, spiked back up, went back down, and then I believe it either saw a legacy deck here or it just sold out for Commander. A lot of the decks really want the Teferi's Protection in the decks, so it was one of those products that people open just for the Teferi's Protection. When a product sells for $30 you can get, or $35 you can get a $30 card, well, there's the no-nonsense purchase right there. Might as well just buy the product, open it. A lot of these products started to become scarce for this very reason. Now, Rudy, in his video that is talking about there is some silver lining, references the 2013, where those were kind of pretty meh too, until people realized that there was well, all the decks were pretty meh except for Mindseas, because Mindseas was 100% being opened just for the True Name Nemesis, because the True Name Nemesis was worth the entire amount of the entire box product. So people just open it, flip the rest of the cards on eBay, and make a profit. That actually has a lot to do with the scarcity of these particular Commander products. If you don't think that mass box openers exist out there, I don't know what world you're living in. There are a lot of people that will buy their entire allotment. These are definitely what I call fake stores, don't even have a player base, don't even really have. They've somehow managed to get WPN status or status with distributors. They order their allotment and break apart the components of these and piece them out. If you go on TC Play right now, you'll see people pre-ordering copies of these brand new cars up in the hundreds. So meaning they're planning on opening hundreds of these Commander products, piecing them out, and just selling them on TC Player. And then they get a better average return on that than if they were just to try to sell the entire product. So a lot of work, a lot of labor is involved, but some people that like to sort cards, that like this sort of thing, it's worth it to them. Not my cup of tea, but for some, it is profitable. That's why they do it. All right, so again, Commander 2017 did have some cards that then were adopted and were just completely considered staples in the Commander environment or in other format environment, and that's why you see a lot of them did start to go up. Even like you see a lot of a decent little percentage gains. Even in the weekly, small percentage gains here and there, a little 2 cent, 4 cents that add up over time. Kiss Dissonant Mage is still going down though, so you can see that this value is probably being picked up from even other cards faster than Kiss is going down. So again, there's a lot of ups and downs with this particular set, but all in all, these sort of cards, they started out kind of slow. Zendikar Resurgence, a good one for you, and went from 80-cent mark all the way up to about the 379 mark. So these are the type of things you want to look for at a commander set to see if it's actually going to hold value. The reprinting of something like a Cyclonic Rift or Zendikar Resurgence can absolutely kill the value, and these cards recover very quickly as the commander products don't seem to be putting that much supply into the overall market, and therefore there is the ability for them to recover. So those are just some metrics to compare. Let's look at Atraxa real quick, see if we can get a whole value of the Commander 2017 or Commander 2016 to see where it came out the gate. So you can see that right out of the gates, it started at the 300. Yeah, this is where it had the 800 right at the pre-sale. Flattened out at 300, but that flat didn't keep going down like we saw with 2017 for a few months. It immediately started going up, and now if you were to buy a complete set of Commander 2016, you are looking at $575 worth of cards. And this is actually a more real number than this because this number is meaning that there's a lot more movement. These cards are a lot easier to sell than back here when people are still trying to go to the race at the bottom. So we have some nice little metrics to compare to for the Commander 2018. So let's click over here to the Commander 2018 deck list. Goldfish has them broken down right now. We can see all the reprints. A lot of people are actually very upset about the reprints. I am sort of in that category because I think the new cards are interesting. There definitely could be some Teferi's protections, but we definitely like to look at the known rather than the unknown when evaluating a set. Unknowns are the cards that have never seen a printing before. We don't know how they're going to react. So let's look at Saheeli. The first one off the bat is this Exquisite Invention did not have a duck card like a Wormcoil Engine that had a staple place in a modern deck. There isn't a lot of other cards that see a ton of play in Commander. A card like New Phyrexia, this might be the straw that breaks the camel's back, as it has now the third reprinting. That's usually, look at the Tarmogoyf problem. It lost like 20% every time it was reprinted, and then the last printing of it really crashed the price of the Goyf. So we can see that the Soul of New Phyrexia has gone all the way down to $2. It was an M15. And let's just check and see what did the reprinting did to M15. From its print, it went from $2. It had a steady climb all the way up to $2.80. Then went down all the way to $2, so it lost a good third of its value and started to climb up to about $2.40. It's down. So its high was $2.80 when the first reprint collapsed 80 cents to $2. I think that this next one will collapse it even a little bit more. So we're looking at this card that is now going for $2 right now, and what they're valuing it at, because that's the only reference point they have, is probably worth more like $1.20. And if you can expect another 80 or 60 cent drop from the Soul of New Phyrexia. The same can be true with a lot of these cards that Wizards chose to reprint that just had dual deck reprintings, like the Scuddling Doom Engine. Steel Hellkite just had a reprint in the Commander Anthology, and a lot of these rares, look, Thopter Assembly was in the dual deck. These are just another Mere Battlesphere, I believe, was in both of them, maybe, or just in the Commander Anthologies. I don't know. We can click on this to find more. But again, these have all had multiple reprintings. And this is just, in my opinion, a lot of these cards are the straw that breaks the camel's back. Duplicant as well had an Eternal Masters reprint. We can look at some of the old trajectories of the Duplicant. So we look, it was even a masterpiece for Duplicant. We have the Eternal Masters. It got up to 350. And it's been steadily going down actually from its reprinting. It hadn't even recovered yet from its Eternal Masters printing. So it looks like it finally did start to flatten out, and you can expect the trajectory to go way down now that it's got its third or fourth or fifth reprint for that particular card. So that is so far the most expensive card we've gone over is the $3.20 Duplicant. There really is no other value in the creatures here. So let's go down to spells. We have a Chaos Warp. You can already see that just got a reprint in the Commander Anthology, so it's still trying to recover from that. Got now a reprint in this. I think Chaos Warp's one of the more underrated cards in Commander. The problem, though, with red is sometimes red doesn't like to interact. with what your opponents are doing. It needs to be the color that needs to be answered in Commander, so even running cards like Chaos Warp sometimes is a meh. I typically put Chaos Warp in all of my Commander decks just because it can answer basically anything. However, that doesn't mean that all Commander, especially casual players, are going to follow suit. There are some silver linings with Blasphemous Act. This is a card that tends to be reprinted a lot, but tends to always hold its value every time it's reprinted, so then this could dip back down, but it should recover because it's a highly played card. So there are some good things here in this particular set, but the price is misleading when a lot of these cards have 30-cent value, especially something like Saheeli's Artistry, which is still going down because of Kaladesh. I believe this is a promo as well out of Kaladesh, or Reverse Engineer. These things haven't even seen their bottom because we have rotation coming up. And then a lot of just kind of junk rares, junk commons that the 15 cents into the Royal, that's pretty meh, especially when this just got a renamed in Dominaria. So we keep going down. Soul Ring. When Soul Ring is the best card out of the set, that is definitely a problem. Usually Soul Ring was just a throw-in and was just kind of middle of the pack for these type of cards. So I guess we do have one that does beat it with Unwinding Clock. I think this is a pretty good reprint. But again, this is not the expected reprint out of each set that needs to be the kind of selling point. Now, again, this is a great card to reprint in here. It has had that steady increase, went all the way up from 2 to 4, kind of flat there for a year. Now starting to have that nice trajectory. If this hadn't seen a reprint, this would have been an $8, $9, $10 card in no time, especially with the more and more commanders that actually want Unwinding Clock to beat a lot more artifact type thing. I'm sure Karn type decks, and with the Paradox Engine type decks, I'm sure that's why it's still gaining a lot of momentum. So this is a good reprint here, but unfortunately, it didn't have the value quite yet to make it a selling point for the deck. I like Unwinding Clock long term to hold its value and then go up. Right now, though, not going to sell decks. Mirrorworks, same thing. Put it in the exact same categories. Unwinding Clock goes in a ton of commander decks that have artifact themes, which is more and more. Would have been a great pickup of this card if this deck didn't include it, but it's not going to be a selling point for this to just completely sell off the shelves by getting a Mirrorworks. Bunch of these other $2 cards that are brand new that we don't know if they're going to be good. Enchanter's Bane, I think it will be a bulk rare, 100%. It's going to drop its value because I think it's a kind of a garbage card to be running in it, and you kind of get the point. So now we finally get the selling point out of this stack is the Treasure Nabber, and this is the great unknown. How much is Treasure Nabber going to mean to the Commander player base? How many decks is this going to go into? Is this actually going to see play in Vintage like people are speculating it might? Whenever an opponent taps an artifact for mana, gain control of that artifact until the end of your next turn, so you get all your opponent's moxes. I'm not sure that that's actually going to be that big of a deal. I think this is just more of a Commander novelty. And how many decks this is actually going to be chucked in. It's very easy to remove. I guess you do gain it regardless if you remove it by spending the mana to do it. But Red is trying to destroy artifacts with Vandal Blast, things like that. It's kind of like a non-bow in that issue. If you're killing all your opponent's stuff rather than gaining control of it, then yeah, I just don't think Treasure Nabbers is as versatile as a lot of the cards like the Herald's Horn or Teferi's Protection of the sets of yesteryear. So this is a big unknown. Same thing with the Geode Golem. Geode Golem, I think, has a lot of hype behind it. I think when people actually start playing it, this might not be a $10 card for much longer. So again, the value is a little bit even misleading out of this deck. When you have the $103 deck, of course, that seems a bargain when you can get the deck for $40. But with $112 cards, again, if we look back at some of those Atraxa decks, it was loaded with a bunch of $10 at $15 cards that were reprinted that soon came down. We're talking about cards like High Market and Black Market, those type of cards. When they get reprinted, it tends to really kick those cards down to $1 to $2 cards for the short term. All right, so we go over here to the Subjective Reality. This one even has a higher price tag at the $127.02. We can look, and there's a Ninja of the Deep Hours. This will probably hold its value because it's such a popular popper card. Phyrexian Delver, nah, this is going to go down. This will be another reprinting. I'm sure that the Phyrexian Delver took a while for it to recover. Yep, so it bottomed down all the way down to 30 cents and has been slowly creeping up. You can already see it's 63 cents. So this version of it is overinflated right now for being $1.06. We have the Atakar Valkyrie. Oops, we're looking at online. Whoops. Now we're going back here. So never mind. Friction Delver is 63 cents. Yep, that's right. It's at Muldrifter, $1.47. This one does hold its value. Yeah, so Ninja's a lot cheaper than I thought. Yeah, $1. We're clicked on online somehow by default. The Silent Blade Oni. This is another reprint of a card. I think this is the third time this being reprinted. Again, it holds true for all of these cards that have had a lot of the reprints. This might be just the straw that breaks the camel's back. Ponder is one of the better cards in this set. I think Predict is going to get killed a bit because this was more of a low supply card. Ponder is a very, very heavy supply card that has a lot of use in a variety of different decks, especially in Pauper. Brainstorm, no way it's going to hold even a 67. I think this really is the printing of Brainstorm that's going to drop this price down to a quarter. I used to be buying Brainstorms all the time for 10 cents a piece out of Masters 25. If you're paying full price for these, you're not looking for sellers for it. Entreat the Angels, again, this is another reprinting of it where Miracles is starting to see play in Modern. Starting to see a little bit of play in Legacy when people are finding other ways to build the whole top shell. With Legacy being the Wild Wild West right now, it could start to see a lot more play, but it's kind of a weird one to hold value. It's going to take a lot of time for it to return back from its crashing point, which will happen because of it. Same thing with Terminus. Same thing with Army of the Damned. All of these, I think, have been printed too many times, and it's just not exciting anymore when they're put into yet another Commander set. Signets are a good one. They usually need printings. These two, especially Azorius and Dimir, have been creeping up, and Mindstone just had a recent reprint, had another recent reprint. One of the Master sets had it, and now it's in this one as well. Commander Sphere is a good, of course, inclusion in Commander set, but it's not going to sell sets. So we come over here too to the new ones like the Uriki, the Tiger Shadow, and the Magus the Balance. Traditionally, these type of cards do have play in this particular deck, but they don't see as much play outside of these decks, and therefore they're just not adopted by the Commander community as a whole. You're not going to be like throwing a Magus the Balance in your Tesa deck, for example. There will be some decks that want it in there, but the vast majority of them may not, and then it's just kind of a duh card. Entreat the Dead's already competing with a lot of cards that do a very similar thing. There's a 5 mana card that will return them all from your graveyard anyway to the battlefield, or returns all of them, like the Living Death. I guess it returns your opponents, but a lot of times you don't care. The Miracle on this is nice if you can make it work. The non-Miracle of this is absolutely horrid. For 5 mana for the first one, so it's Rise of the Dead, and it doesn't scale that nicely after that. So I don't know if this can expect to even hold the $5 price tag. Geode Golem's actually in this one as well, so $10 is pretty. It's Geode Golem in all of them. It might actually be in all of them. We'll look at it in a second. And the Sower of Discord, same thing. It's another way to tax both people. We already saw this in the form of a commander. Whenever a creature deals damage to opponent. Yeah. Again, though, Commander's getting very, very cramped for cards to what can go in that slot. There's a lot of 6 mana slots, and these are still a lot of unknowns that are holding the value. And what we said with the Commander 16 especially, it was a lot of known cards that saw play outside of their Commander decks, and we knew were going to be popular for the long term that held the vast value of those sets. So again, Isolated Watchtower kind of fits in that. This is a big unknown if this is even a good card in Commander when it only taps for colorless, and then if your opponent has to have more lands than you, and maybe you can scry one and maybe it can work. It just might be one of those utility lands that looked good, and then it's like, I just have another basic that can tap for, or a non-basic that can tap for multiple mana. In this case, especially when you're looking at like this in an Esper deck, I could see even this particular deck cutting it. Even though it does have the scry ability attached to it, just because it ends up being quite meh for 2 and tap to just scry 1. Like, again, I get it. It's top on land, sort of ish, but it's mana is a very, very useful resource in Magic the Gathering, believe it or not. And spending 3 mana because it's 2 and tap, it's a land. It's actually costing you 3 mana. Might not be where this card wants to be for this ability. So we go over to Nature's Vengeance, which has the most dismal price of it. And this one actually did have a card that I believe is the most expensive card in the set right now. We'll look at it in a second when we look at the overall price. I don't know if Goldfish have actually got it all planned out at the moment, but Avenger Zendikar, another printing of Avenger Zendikar. It barely did recover from its dual deck Eldrazi versus Zendikar. Just that bottomed completely out when it was contained in that pack. Yeah. Secure Tri-Builder just had a reprint. I think that this one's inflated. I don't think that's the right price because this one's trying to read from an obscure card. If we come down here and look at like the Conspiracy 1 or Commander 2016, actually looks like these went up to $150. That one kind of crept up on us. Commander 13, I guess, would be the lowest price. That's a good one too. Reprint it. Sees play in a modern deck, and therefore it can hold its value long term. This though is going to temporarily get the price down. We've seen some of these cards recently already reprinted. Scoot Mob was actually dumbed down to an uncommon. Was it ever? Let me check the Scoot Mob. I thought they dumbed this down in one of the Master sets. For Modern Masters 2, it was a rare in Modern Masters 2. I just thought they dumbed it down to like an uncommon. But yeah, it just doesn't hold any value. And we can keep going down this, and that's the norm rather than the exception. Not any spells that are really worth anything. Explorer might have been kind of cool if it hadn't been reprinted in a while, but Cultivate, same thing. Cultivate just came off of a massive reprinting, and it's just getting less and less of a thing that people, Explosive Vegetation too. This just came off a couple of reprints. Again, Soul Ring so far is the most expensive card next to Avenger Zendikar when we go down this list. With a Deathroot Ritual that I never understood why this card was creeping up in Commander to begin with. So that was a decent little uncommon reprint, but again, that's few and far between. And then we have the Gardener. This should definitely be a low supply card that kills the value from the $3 mark all the way down to the $1.50 mark. And some of these unknown cards, again, we don't know how well they are going to be picked up by the Commander group. Let's go down to Adaptive Enchantment. This is the one that has the expensive card, but the only reason this card did go up in value to begin with was that people were speccing on it for this deck. So it's the Enchantress Presence. It had a recent spike because there's an Enchantress deck that's doing decent in Legacy, but for the most part, this was just the speculation that this deck would absolutely want it in the Commander. So it started spiking up right when right here when we knew that it was an Enchantments Matter theme. So you saw that it's pretty stagnant for quite a while, from 10 to 11 for an entire year. Had a spiking over here too. I think that's when Enchantress actually started seeing play in Legacy. Spiked up from 6 to 11, and it's been flat since July. So a whole year this was flat. Started going back up again just because it was we knew what the archetypes were going to be, and people thought that this would go in the deck. However, since this card is in the deck, you don't have to add it to it. This should get this back to, you have to imply that it's like a $10 card getting a reprint, which is going to get murdered in the value of the card. We have the Bear Umbra, same thing. Bear Umbra started seeing a little play in Modern recently. I don't know if I like it in that. To me, it feels kind of in the Bogle's version. It plays a one of in the main and one of in the side. However, I mean, it has seen play before. It is a popular Commander card because the Umbra allows it to ditch it. And it's got a relevant thing too when this creature attacks on top of all your lands. So you get basically another full main phase where you can cast things, which is kind of cool. But I don't know if this is on the same caliber of other cards in these Commander 2016 and Commander 2017 cards that were reprinted that just saw a lot of overlap between a ton of decks. The bulk of these cards is still in that unknown category where we don't know where they're going to settle out. So if we compare it, the whole price value of these sets, we get a good, this might actually be selling for relatively the same as some of these coming out. So what we're looking at in the mid 400s. So if we go back to 2016 during spoiler, because we're not in release. This is when it actually gets released. So Commander 2016 was up in the 500s. The Commander 2017, let's just look them all here. The Commander 2017 had a price tag of, out the gates, price tag of, 500 during this time period when it all was settled and done, settled down to 300. So I'm expecting this one to even be lower. So this one's probably going to settle down to 240. And the cost to get in, 240, 250 is what I'm assuming. The cost to get into this was a lot higher. And that's every little piece of these cards. Nothing stands out. So we can look at Commander 2017. Let's see if there are any of these reprints. held true. See, a lot of these were unknowns, so we could see a repetition of last year, where it does look like that all of the new cards besides Mirari's Wake. But I don't know if there is a card in this set that's like the caliber of Mirari's Wake of this set. But yeah, new card, new card, new card, new card, new card, new card, new card. A bunch of these are brand new cards. And they didn't redo Path to Ancestry in this. Funny, I unloaded all my Path to Ancestry because I was dead certain that it was going to be in this Commander set. Womp womp. Reprint Zendikar Resurgence gone back up. And then, yeah, Soul Ring. So this is kind of a pretty mess set as well. But this Commander set actually didn't hold value for quite a while after its second printing of the set. If we go over to the Commander 2016, it is... I think the Commander 2016 has a ton of reprints that held value. Yeah, Chromatic Lantern, new card, 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 new card. Yeah, a lot of these actually are new cards. Forbidden Orchard was a reprint. Propaganda was a reprint. You start seeing these ones here. Bloodbraid Elf, Burgeoning, Reliquary Tower, Homeward Path, Tempted Discovery, I believe. Yeah, that was a reprint at that point. Colonial Hydra was a reprint. Iroas. This is where the value was in 2016, was just a slew of cards in this $5 range that got that reprint. So, all in all, I don't think it's as doom and gloom as most people think with Commander 2018. I think there's a lot of room of unknown here. How are these new cards going to hold value? That is the question. That's what you need to be really, really looking at if you're going to make a long-term investment in this Commander 2018 decks. Rudy's been really pumping it, saying that you shouldn't allow emotion. You shouldn't allow Reddit posts to dictate your investments because, you know, some of his regrets was not going all in on Commanders when they were poorly received. And now you can even sell some of the lackluster Commanders like 2015 or 2017 for, you know, top market, making insane profit margins just by selling the complete box list. And that this one should be no different. However, I don't know. I don't know about this one. To me, I think this needs to be received with a little bit of caution before you go all in. Speaking of all in, though, if you are a patron, we are offering these Commander 2018. We're sold out at the moment for patrons. We have had a lot of people that do want to pre-order them, but there should be more allocations after the pre-order. We do give distributor pricing, which ends up being like $85 a set if you are a $20 or above patron for our Patreon. So keep that in mind if this is something that, if you are in the Rudy crowd, that you think you can sit on these for a year and make $100 profit margins, then by all means, we have that available to you if you want to become a patron of Rogue Deck Builder. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it was useful or had some sort of information. This is exactly how, when I look at a market decision, you know, you want to get as much information as possible. The way to do that is compare that with other things of similar trends. There's a lot of, I would say there's way more doom and gloom though than there was for last year's Commander or even 2015 or those ones in the past. This is one of the only Commanders sets that has been received almost even last year, Commander 2017, I actually think that it was received quite well, at least from, you know, my neck of the woods. People were happy about these tribal. They were happy about the contents too. It was the biggest problem in 2017. Like I said earlier, it was right after 2016. So everyone was expecting this insanity of 2016 reprints to happen. And then when 2017 toned it down, and it's still probably better than 2015, whereas 2018 is uncomparable to anything in the past. It's very, very poor reception. A lot of people aren't happy with the way that the decks, like what I've heard from this is people are interested in the commanders themselves, but they're like, let's scrap the entire deck and actually build it properly rather than just play it out of the box. And that's been one of the appeals to some of these commander sets, is they're very good right out of the box. There have been some like Duretti in the past, or the blue and the black Teferi and the was Obnixilis. They were kind of really scattered out of the box, but they were still pretty well received because, you know, Duretti and Teferi and Obnix were great build around cards and were very, very popular. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Definitely check those EDH Rec statistics on what cards are seeing where, and if there are any ones that can hold that $15, $20 mark, yeah, these are actually pretty good investments. You know, it is dismal with reprints, but there's still a couple $4, $5, $6 cards that will hold the value long term. that do factor into the sealed product of this. If you can get it above that $40 mark, that it's profitable. Anyway, again, hope you enjoyed this video. This has been Kevin with Rogue Deck Builder. Thanks for watching.